Welcome, everybody. First things first, as always, if I could just get a quick audio visual check, please. Let me know you can see my charts clearly and hear me all right. How are you all doing this fine day, wherever you are? After a quick confirmation, just so I know I'm not talking to myself or have myself muted somewhere, as soon as that's confirmed, I can get started. For those of you guys who have appreciated my live streams in the past, appreciate the Telegram channel, seeing some of my trade strategies, all that sort of thing, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, if you want to catch more of these live streams and that sort of thing. All good. Thank you very much, my friends. All right, guys. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me again. And guys, Bitcoin is in a very interesting spot right now. Quite honestly, I see reasons to join the bulls, but I also see reasons to join the bears again. I want to go over a few different time frames to show why I have mixed feelings on this market currently. But of course, I'll be trading both directions on the lower time frames either way, because at the end of the day, I don't really care which direction we're going as long as it's volatile. If I get one of my preferred trade setups, I'll pull the trigger. It's as simple as that. So sorry, I know I have been slacking on the live streams lately, you guys. I've been extremely busy the last couple of weeks doing the classic last minute tax season crunch, looking over those tens of thousands of transactions. Once again, the one time where being a scalper really doesn't feel near as fun as the rest of the year. But next week, I should have a little more extra time opening up and be able to be a little more active in the charts once again. So with that being said, thank you guys for being here with me. So first things first, I want to start by looking at Bitcoin's 4-hour chart, because this is one thing that you guys know for quite a while. I was looking at this downtrend for several months, right? We were in a very aggressive downtrend since basically, well, January 20th when the market topped. And I was very, I thought that if the bears were going to remain in full control, that we would have seen resistance basically where we paused for a little bit, very close to our lower high. And that was a confirmed lower high because we had our lower low, we had another lower low. That confirms our highest point between the two as our lower high. But we have broke that and we have set new structure since that. So let's just kind of go over what the 4 hours looking like. First is the naked chart, then I'll check out some indicators here. But as we climb to the upside, notice that after we ended up breaking that lower high structure, right, this green line here, we ended up setting a new high, and we have since set a new higher high, thus confirming a new higher low once again. I had actually mentioned this 4-hour Stuber fib as far as the micro trend on the 4-hour, the very immediate trend, right? This structure ended up holding nicely. We did front run my 786 a little bit. If you were watching on the 1 minute or the 5 minute, you can see there was some lower high structure that ended up breaking, obviously a little bit early. Whenever we start getting close to my entries and targets like that, that is one thing that I do quite often is I will zoom into shorter time frames. I'll often just set an alert as we start to approach the levels of interest for me. I set alerts and then I go check out what the price is doing around those levels. And that's one of those times where, yeah, we front run it a little bit, but the same idea stands true, right? Basically, I was looking at that uptrend. We were supposed to start looking for support somewhere in this area. The thing to go with this now is that obviously that has played out already. Yeah, it's a small range, but if that's the Fibonacci pull that I have, that is the range. The range is from here to here. So basically from, call it 91.6 up to about 95.8 or so. Notice that after getting this bounce, just front running the 786, we did hit the 0.5 fib. We did hit the 214 fib. So that is the two Stuber fib range targets. They have already been hit. So that move may have already happened already. Not to say that I'm overly bearish on that fact, right? Because the uptrend is still there, right? As far as the micro trend goes, even though we're seeing this little pullback, technically that uptrend is still very much intact and it still looks healthy to me. That's as far as a 4-hour goes. The thing is, guys, even if we see a deep correction, and I know I've been honestly, I'm hoping for it a little bit. I don't know if it's going to happen. And that's the thing with trade setups, you guys, right? Is I lay something out, and in a case like this, I would love to get a long entry down at the Stuber fib of the full range. Actually, that may have changed. Let me just double check. If I pull from the bottom to where we've topped out, no, that is still exactly where my Fibonacci's are. So that purple box is still valid. I would love to take a swing at some longs down at this level. it does not have to happen, but understand that it can. And before you tell me that we will never see those prices again, understand that I looked at a very similar setup. Basically, where was that? That was back here when I was saying that I thought it made a lot of sense that we would come back and test around 94K. And that was right at this level. And there was the same reason, right? We had this high, we had a higher high, and that confirmed our higher low. I know this is a bearish fib pull right now, but at the time I was looking at something like this, and we did end up getting that Stuber fib pullback, right? And I was told you will not see 94K again. Well, we saw significantly lower than that. So before you say that it can't happen, anything can happen. And anybody who's been in the crypto space for more than a full cycle understands exactly what I'm talking about. If this is your first cycle, yeah, it's fun to say that, oh, this cycle is going to be different. If you haven't been in a previous market cycle, then you don't have a strong opinion on that because you haven't experienced it. But Bitcoin can do anything. The market does not give a shit about our feelings, and it's going to do what it's going to do. So at that point, I don't really care which way we end up going. As long as those trade setups are getting hit and I'm able to enter some high probability setups, that's really all I care about. I don't really care which direction they're going. Overall, I'm very bullish on crypto for the long term, but I don't like to get blindsided by complete FOMO, because anytime that the market feels most bullish, like anytime a bull market reverses into a bear market, understand that it's always when the market feels the most bullish. It's when everybody's FOMOing, including large companies, governments, banks, all that sort of stuff. And as soon as we see that everybody is, aping into strategic reserves and all that sort of stuff, understand that the more we have that happen, yes, it's great for the industry. I want to be clear about that. It's very bullish as far as a long-term fundamental goes, but understand that that is often a sign of a market cycle top. So no matter how bullish it feels, understand that when it feels the most bullish is when we are all going to get blindsided. So I'm trying to stay one step ahead of that. We're going to have to see what happens, right? But this is one of those things where I would love to see a pullback to this purple box. It does not mean I'm going to get it, but if we get it, I plan on taking some trades. That's all there is to it. So I want to go over a couple other things. I want to start bringing up some indicators. The trend master on the 4-hour, notice same thing, right? That also has support. It lined up beautifully with my 786 right there. So absolutely beautiful confluence to have there from the NDX trend master indicator. Notice that we have support getting fair. The price is getting fairly close to the support of that eventually here. I do think, well, eventually trends break, right? Eventually this signal is going to break. And when we get a sell signal on this indicator, the one good thing that I will give to the bulls is it is going to be a higher sell signal wherever it comes in, whether it's coming in the next couple of days or it's going to come in a few weeks from now. Either way, I believe that this sell signal is going to be a higher sell signal. And in which case, if we end up printing a higher buy signal, that's a very strong signal for me that the trend is strong to the upside. But we're going to have to see what happens with that. I would love to see that happen down here. But again, the market doesn't really care what I think. I want to also bring up, so here's a couple of reasons why a lot of you guys, for those of you who are in my Telegram channel, you'll know that yesterday I actually ended up pointing out this Fibonacci level. This range that I mapped out last night in my free Telegram channel, we have not changed this structure yet. So, I know a lot of people are thinking that, hey, it feels very choppy. The market maker is fucking with us, all that sort of thing. Understand that structure has not changed today. Since last night, since mapping out this range, we have not broke the highs. We have not broke the lows. This range is still very much intact for this time. I have actually taken scalps off this level. I mapped it out last night, but I've taken 3 scalps off this level now, including right now. I still have half a position running. I'm normally, I only like to take a Stuber fib setup the first time. The first time is where I feel most confident in it because it's very likely you're going to get some sort of a test reaction out of that level with the structure break, right? But since we got that, I ended up, as I hit my first take profit, I updated my stop loss already. Quite often, I wait until I hit my second profit But with how the market is right now, how the 4 hour is still trending to the upside, I'm being a little more cautious than I was a couple of weeks ago with my short setups. So after I'm hitting my first target, I don't necessarily have a lot of faith in these setups, and I am treating them as the scalps that I'm taking them as. So I don't really want to keep risk on the table at this point, because honestly, like I said earlier, guys, yeah, I'm saying the market can go either direction. That's because it can. Anybody who's saying that they know for sure what's going to happen, they're straight up lying to you. So all we can really do is just line up the strategies that we like to play and play our odds, remove our risk as quickly as possible. So yeah, unfortunately, the first couple times I took this trade setup, yeah, I hit my first target, took my quarter of a profit, or closed quarter of my position for profit, and ended up getting stopped out at break even on the rest when we came up here. I just ended up reshorting it because we were at the same level and we started facing it as rejection again. So I took another short just below the 786 here. Again, we hit my first target, got stopped out on the rest at break even. And then I ended up taking a third one here as we were looking weak right around the 886 once again. So, yeah, I am willing to take the same setup a few times. I mean, I've got 3 beautiful short setups off the same Stuber fib setup. This is nothing crazy. This is just basic market structure. This is just a typical Stuber fib setup. Those of you guys in my Telegram channel, be sure to check the pinned comments, because there is a couple of Stuber fib videos. There's also a public one on the Financial Summit website, or YouTube channel rather, as well as on my Twitter page pinned at the top. So yeah, this is just basic Stuber fib structure. Love to see it. And we'll see what happens from here, right? If we break it back above this 786 here and I get stopped at break even, so be it. Then it happens a third time. But I've actually taken 2 take profits on this position, because I saw that we were starting to struggle very close to my 214 target. And I just like to front run my fibs a little bit anyways. So before starting this stream, I took a little more profit just to, like I said, reduce my risk, make sure I pay myself. So this range has been very friendly to me. I love the fact that I've been able to take 3 trades off the exact same trade, basically, making my life very easy right now. So love to see that. One reason why I am still trying to short, even though, like I said, the 4 hour is looking, it's actually got a nice trend going, is if I bring up some indicators, is notice that we're starting to show a little bit of weakness, possibly being overextended a little bit. A few things, and I pointed this out in my last stream, but the fact that the RSI, not so much that it was in overbought conditions. I love to see the market, when we're in a bullish trend, I love to see the RSI go overbought. That means that there's a lot of buying strength in the market. But the fact that we're just trading sideways, but we're kind of losing strength here, we see the RSI dropping off. The fact that we lost that overbought conditions is a bit of a divergence for me. And I know it could be the RSI cooling off. Before anybody throws that out there, I know it could be the RSI cooling off and it's a bit of a hidden divergence. Sure, it absolutely could be a thing. But the fact that I had the 5-minute bearish setup with these warning signs on the 4 hour, and on top of that, on top of the RSI just starting to lose strength there, even curling to the downside right now. We also had the MDX Wave Master indicator pointed a overextended bearish pivot on this indicator. We have curled to the downside, and we see the high frequency trading bots, these bars here, are pushing the downside as well. So there's a few warnings here from, if I wanted to be bullish right now, which honestly, like I said, I am a little bit bullish right now based on the trend. But again, I'm open to the idea of either direction right now because I see so many mixed signals. So yeah, there's a few warnings on the 4 hour chart here. One thing that leads me to think the market can pump significantly higher is see that Binance retail traders are actually short heavy right now still. Almost 41% retail is long. Generally speaking, when we were on this aggressive downtrend, the long short ratio was going very long heavy. Retail was very much so trying to, in a panic, buy the dip because they were so accustomed to that. But now the fact that we've had so many continuations to the downside, even as we're climbing higher, you can see that retail does have a little bit of PTSD from the downtrend. We had that 30% correction for all of 2025, basically the last 3 or 4 months. that people are still very much so desperately trying to short. And that is one reason. And also, well, actually, greed is starting to climb a little bit. But as far as the long short ratio goes, that's still one thing that leads me to think that we can go a little bit higher. Now, something that could change this, and will change it very quickly, and a lot of you guys watching this right now will probably even think, Stu, if we go to these levels, we are going to all-time highs. Understand what a Stuber fib is. It basically is the perfect level for bull traps and bear traps, because they are levels where basically FOMO comes into resistance and fear comes in at support, right? So if I jump over to the weekly chart, something that would, in my opinion, make that retail number of longs go absolutely through the frickin' roof is if the price does climb higher to around 100,000, even all the way up to 105K, you guys, I think is a very fair rally to get rejected at some point. Because notice that on this weekly here, we traded sideways for a few months there. We lost that support, right? We broke it, candle closes, everything like that. We broke that support. If this was a 5-minute chart, I would be looking to short this just like any typical Stuber fib, just like this one here, right? We end up losing just like this, right? We're trading sideways. We lose that structure. We get this bounce. Everybody starts saying that we're bullish again. Everyone starts taking longs. Stu takes a short because we're trading into resistance, into my bearish Stuber fib here, and we go to the downside. I treat all time frames the same, whether it's the 1 minute, 5 minute, 1 hour, 4 hour, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. Market structure is market structure. It basically, if you look at any time frame, the charts look the same. They just take longer to play out on the longer time frame. So if this is how I look at playing the 5 minute, well, you know exactly what I'm looking at when I bring up the weekly here. Yes, I understand there's a lot of fundamentals that can change in the time that there's a weekly chart, for example, but just understand how much FOMO is going to come into the market if we break above 100K again. And with that bearish structure break, that could be a recipe for disaster, for a very aggressive rejection. And we're going to have to see, right? Because you guys know I've been talking for quite a while with my RSI. This was one thing. This is what led me to be bearish around Christmas. I was saying to watch for this double top with this very specific bearish divergence. The fact that we ended up breaking this divergence line so far, I mean, that was a great sign. Like, that happened. That was confirmed right at this candle here. That was a great sign. When we ended up breaking that resistance of that trend line, like I said, we break that, and we are basically, that's one of my red flags. One of my very serious bearish red flags was lifted with that. On top of the 4-hour structure changing, that was bullish. The RSI on the weekly breaking, also bullish. Here is my concern with this setup, and what I don't know. We are going to have to see what happens, because a weekly time frame, this would take a few weeks to play out, in my opinion. But much like how I felt when we were trading right here, when the RSI was down and dropped below that overbought conditions, I was theoretically putting this line here. I was kind of joking about it, but I was kind of serious, and we ended up getting that. And that's exactly why I flipped very bearish. My concern right now is what happens if the price ends up going towards this Stuber fib in the next few weeks. Call it 2 or 3 weeks. If we end up getting up to that level, honestly, even a little higher, let's say we even go double top, even a little liquidity grab, something like that. Either way, we get up towards these resistance levels, and the RSI gets right up to that rejection level, and we get that kind of our RSI looking something like that. We would just have a new, much larger bearish divergence, similar to the one that made me very bearish. And I know a lot of people want to say, aha, Stu, you were wrong about being bearish. You know what? We ended up dumping over 30% to the downside. I do not consider that being incorrect. A 30% correction is very serious. I regret nothing about having extra money by playing the downside and now spot buying things, buying meme coins, buying Bitcoin, taking more long positions, all that sort of stuff. I have zero regrets about playing bearishly for those couple months. No regrets here. And if we get that kind of a setup once again, but a much larger one, I am going to have very serious concerns with what the structure of the chart is shaping up for. And you guys know that last cycle, we saw something very similar, right? We saw this RSI basically from, we have these highs here, but notice this bearish divergence that we end up getting when we get our next pump to the upside here. Yeah, again, we went a little bit higher. We did go a little higher than this bearish super fib, but notice it was never invalidated. We never got above the 115. All we got was a swing fail at this level. So the super fib was still intact. We got that bearish divergence to boot, and it was bear market on. That was a perfect market cycle top. So if we end up getting the same thing this time, I'm going to have serious concerns about this. I'm not saying it has to, right? We are laying this out as a possibility. And if this lines up that the RSI hits this level, RSI hits the bearish divergence resistance, as well as the price getting into resistance, I'm going to unfortunately have to flip bearish once again at these levels and openly, very aggressively bearish. And if that gets invalidated and we set new highs, then at that point, you know what? Okay, I miss, this much of the market cycle. Oh, darn. I'm personally not too worried about it. If I end up shorting resistance and someone else longs into resistance and they happen to get lucky by buying into resistance, that's totally fine. I really don't care. That's just one trade, right? But basically, I would have a nice tight invalidation setup at that point. Whereas if someone's longing into that, okay, your invalidation is now 30% away rather than 10%, right? So just from a risk reward standpoint, I would rather be looking for shorts as we get up to resistance. So again, this is all theoretical. This is something that needs to line up in the next few weeks for me to actually believe it and to actually think that, there's a good possibility that it is going to happen. But I just want to have that on your radar ahead of time, so that if it starts to happen, we don't need to go full panic mode like every other time the market decides to sneeze and drop a little bit, right? So we're going to have to see what happens. And honestly, guys, this is one of those things where I strongly believe if we get up towards that 786, even 100K period, I really, truly believe that long short ratio is going to flip very aggressively. And I think that's when we're going to see longs back at, 65, 70% and that sort of thing. But we're going to have to see what happens. Now is my main concern. Honestly, the weekly one, yes, that's a fair concern, but we have to see what happens. It's not there yet. Whereas the monthly concerns it is here. I still, my biggest concern with this market cycle at this point is the monthly. It's not like I'm trading the monthly time frame, you guys, okay? It's just that I want to be open to the idea. Does it make sense that we could see a pullback? Is it possible that the Moon Boys who feel entitled that they have to see a parabolic run, that they are owed a parabolic run, whatever, does it make sense that those people could be wrong? Understanding the economy a little bit incorrect. There's so many places where a guy could make a mistake. But right here on this chart right now, not playing theoreticals of, oh, well, what if the chart breaks out? We should play along right now because the chart might break out. Okay, well, let's play the chart that's actually here, because that's how I like to trade. And unfortunately, I still have some red flags. One big red flag for me, and you guys, I know some of this is looking familiar at this point, but these order blocks, right? I'm actually going to remove the indicators. Just these few order blocks. This is only the fifth one that Bitcoin's had in its history. Okay. Notice what happens every time we get one break, right? When we get a bullish break, that was big parabolic run to the upside. Back here, this bullish one broke, parabolic run to the upside. This one broke, and that was basically bear market continuation. It had we already ended up having a 50% correction. But even from that, we ended up getting another 65% correction after that, right? So when we flip that support block into resistance, and right now, I hate to say it, but it looks very similar. It's a little bit different because here we actually had the block on the second pump, whereas this time we have the block on the initial pump. But we did lose that support, And we are still currently testing that support as resistance. Yeah, sure, we have a green candle right now, but notice where it's getting stuck. Look where it's having an issue, right at the top of this block, basically. So the fact that, we broke that, and every other single time, I know there's only been 4 previously, but every time, I mean, this is shooting 100%, you guys. This is 100% cycle reversing structure on the monthly chart. And I mean, look what happened here. We even wicked above it very slightly, but we had the same similar structure, right? We had this order block here. We end up losing that and flipping that support into resistance. And notice we were closing green candles right along that resistance, just like what it looks like right now. Now, this leads to my next theory that, it seems too easy that we would get the exact same structure set up as last cycle, right? The fact that we get this big bearish RSI divergence. I know a lot of people are calling for the same type of price structure, and that's why a lot of people still think we'll get one more pump, even if it's the end, that we'll get some sort of a swing fail liquidity grab. And honestly, I'm open to that idea. But the fact that, to me, it feels too easy to have the exact same thing happen. And, that history doesn't necessarily repeat, but it often rhymes, as they say. Here is something that I could see happening, is that, rather than getting the much expected pump up something like this and then getting rejected, the fact that our order blocks are treated very differently here, I think that we actually end up getting shut down before we retest the all-time highs, rather than pumping just above them for that fake out again. Happy to be wrong. I would love to see us just go parabolic from here, period. But, as far as order blocks go, I mean, this one, yeah, we tested up higher, but we never did lose any order block. This was the previous one on the monthly candles before we ended up getting our full-on bear market. Whereas right now we already have that break, right? So very serious concerns, in my opinion. And also this wave master indicator, you guys, the MDX wave master indicator, just a fantastic momentum indicator. And just look at how impressive these crosses have been on this indicator, especially on a long time frame like the monthly like this. Again, guys, this is another monthly signal that has never been wrong. It does not mean that it can't be wrong. Anything can happen. We can absolutely, invalidate all of these things on the monthly chart. But what's here right now, we do have this confirmed bearish cross. We do have this order block flipping from potential support into resistance. Those are very big red flags for me still on a very large time frame. Yeah, I know, especially in crypto, people do not have patience to wait several months for something to play out. If this was a 1-minute chart, this would take several candles yet to play out before we see that rejection, right? So that could still be in the cards. Again, I gotta be clear with how I feel about this, because to be clear, I don't have it clear in my head. There is mixed signals, right? The monthly, like as we zoom out, it looks terrible on the monthly to me. A lot of people at a quick glance would think this looks bullish, that we have a nice big green candle, but look how that structure is actually forming rather than the candle itself. Big red flags. So I don't like this monthly chart. It looks very, very fucking bad to me, to put it nicely. The weekly, like I said, I have my concerns, but that is yet to be determined. The 4-hour, like I said, it has some weakness showing, but as far as the trend goes, still looks great, right? We still, even though we're pulling back right now, we haven't lost this higher low on the micro trend. And even if we pull all the way back, we do something like this, I will still be the guy looking for longs as the market starts shitting their pants as we get towards support. I would be very open to the idea of finding some sort of a bounce there. Even if it's short-lived, there could be a very nice bounce from that level. Honestly, we could go straight down to this level right now, then bounce all the way up to those weekly levels I'm talking about, and then get rejected. That could take months to play out, right? So that's the thing. Just remember to play whatever time frame you're actually playing. I mean, you're not entering a 1-minute or a 5-minute position and hoping that it plays out for weeks or days or even hours, honestly. The shorter time frame, the shorter time you should be holding your position, the quicker you should be reducing risk, the quicker you should be paying yourself and all that sort of stuff. So, but as it stands, yeah, you know what? The shorter time frames, like the 4 hour, not looking so bad. So that's where, at least, even though my monthly time frame, I'm very bearish on that monthly chart, the shorter time frames are starting to roll over a little bit. So I am willing to give credit where credit is due. I know a lot of people are sick of me being a perma bear, and honestly, right now, I don't feel near as bearish as I did a few weeks ago. But I still have those things on my radar that it could still happen. I'm not totally blinded by FOMO yet. I'm really open to the idea of trading both sides right now. Just like I said before, I mean, basically until we ended up breaking this lower high around 88.9K or wherever it was there, until we broke that, I was very open about mostly trading shorts. Right now, I'm very on the fence. I will trade either direction, just depending what kind of a Stuber fib setup I get, basically. But that's my thoughts there. Zooming into the shorter time frames, yet, like I said, the same Fibonacci is still in play. I'm just going to erase these to clean things up a little bit. Yeah, this position is running beautifully. No complaints here. So if we do end up getting that nuke to the downside down to these levels, that is going to be a very juicy short to be in. Like I said, I've already closed half of the position. So from here, it's just risk-free. I really have nothing to worry about. And that's how I love to trade. I like getting into a scalp position. And if half the position can run and catch a beautiful swing trade in the process, fantastic. But I'm not entering a 5-minute position and expecting it to play out like a 4 hour. That's the difference, right? Trendmaster, what do we got here? We got a sell signal. It's a higher sell signal, but even when we end up getting a buy signal with MDX Trendmaster here, it will be a lower buy signal. And that's where if we get a lower sell again, that's just furthering my argument for, yeah, this could continue trending to the downside on the shorter time frames for a little bit. But we are going to have to see. Guys, I'm not going to go over a bunch of altcoins or anything like that today. Like I said, I'm kind of in the middle of last minute tax season crunch here. So I am only here for a few more minutes. I do want to go through the chat here just to see how you guys are doing, see if there's any questions I can answer really quickly here. Again, guys, if you do want my more up-to-date analysis, views on the market, all that sort of thing, honestly, yeah, like I said, I've been slacking at looking at charts period for the last week or two here because I have been so busy. But as far as looking at how I look at market structure, how I pull my Fibonacci's, how I view indicators, just my overall thoughts on the markets in general, if that sounds good to you and you want to join my free Telegram channel, do yourselves a favor, scan that QR code on the screen. There's also a link and steps in the description down below that can get you access into there as well. Like I said, there's some private Stuber Fib videos that go more into the foundation, more into how the structure actually works and that sort of thing for members only. And as well, guys, my partners at BloFin are still giving this promotion, a deposit as well as trading fee or trading volume bonuses. So if this is something that interests you too, this is still running until May 6th. So yeah, again, anybody who's in my Telegram channel currently has this promotion going on. So something to consider there as well. With that, let me throw on some gentle tunes here for a few minutes, and I will go through the chat a little bit. Let me know if the quiet, whatnot. But yeah, and again, guys, if you guys appreciate these streams, appreciate me showing you my personal strategies, you know, my market updates, keeping a level head when, you know, it seems like the market gets pretty irrational, especially people that surround themselves with echo chambers and that sort of thing. It's very easy to get swept up in that kind of a thing. So if you do appreciate my level-headed approach on the markets, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you catch these live streams. Good to see so many familiar faces in here again. You guys, thank you so much for being here with me. Just got liquidation of my $1 margin. Well, that ain't so bad, right? Hopefully. Thought this was Tone. He more so does the Monday, or not the Monday, the morning shows rather. I'd more so zoom into rather than just the overall view of the market. I'm more of the short-term trading and that sort of thing. I got excited for nothing. Yeah, I hate to burst your bubble. Sorry. Heisenberg dump. Well, I hope so, because that short's still running. Stu is the GOAT. Thank you very much, Liquidation Guru. 96K make or break. Yeah, basically, right? Some serious resistance coming into play. Like I said, we're kind of getting to a resistance level. We're starting to see that weakness on the 4-hour. The structure on the 4-hour trend has not changed yet, but there is those warning signs is all. Can I check ETH BTC, ETH USD? Yes, I'll try and do a very quick analysis on ETH. Honestly, I haven't been following it at all, so bear with me here. I will start with the 4-hour. Oh, I see I still have something mapped out here. I actually don't overly agree with this fib pull anymore. Basically with ETH, I mean, here's where we changed the trend, right? We had this break of structure, because here, I know it's micro analyzing, but this is how I pull my fibs, right? Low, lower, low, lower, high. We ended up breaking that. We never did get a Stuber fib pullback here, but obviously it was a nice early warning that, hey, the market was going to go to the upside. So nice to see that that has played out. Right now, if the market does reverse, like I was saying, that, you know, it doesn't have to. That's the thing, right? I mean, my positions when I'm trading the 5-minute like that, I mean, my risk is off that trade already, so I don't care. But if we end up getting that pullback, I could see ETH doing something like this, because we have the structure for it, right? We have an actual uptrend since we broke this structure. We obviously went higher, so we do have the structure. If we end up going higher, basically I would end up pulling my fib and chasing the price with it. But as it stands right now, since this is where the price has topped so far, if we ended up seeing some sort of a pullback as far as the 4-hour goes, yeah, that would be a level of interest for me. Basically from 1485 down towards 1435 would be strong support, in my opinion, to get some sort of a reaction out of. If you don't like that, you know, if that's too much risk for you, then you could also wait and set an alert down at double bottom territory, see if we get some sort of a liquidity grab, something like this, break below, but then reclaim that level quick and long the retest. Then at least you have a nice liquidation grab where you can kind of use that to judge where your stop loss should be and that sort of thing. But as far as a Stuber fib goes, yeah, I absolutely see reason. This is only, guys, this is not saying to short it down to this level. It's more so saying if we get down to this level, there's structure for a Stuber fib there, right? So that is ETH USD, ETH BTC. This is one that I don't look at all too often. I did actually have a trend line apparently mapped out for quite a while here. We did end up breaking it. Actually, and that's a beautiful trend line, right? So we did break the diagonal trend line. Here's the thing with that, is that we could still very easily come back down to retest and get that support resistance flip, right? So if that happens, I mean, it could be going significantly lower. But it has broken the downtrend, so we'll see. It's just, I would have really liked to see it get above this level here to break the horizontal levels as well. Unfortunately, haven't got that yet, but it is what it is. You were right, bro. Big respect. Which was I right about? I was also wrong, right? Full disclosure, like, that's what invalidation levels are for. That's the thing. My downtrend was eventually broken, but now we see what happens. I'm not going to go absolutely nuts and throw every bit of analysis out the window just because a level was broken. I still have those red flags, obviously, but again, there's been a few serious structure changes. Like I said, that weekly and the 4-hour, there was some big changes there that I can't ignore that either. The fib indicator for free, yeah, it's just a Fibonacci retracement tool. I just changed the numbers on them, changed the colors on them. There is an automatic one, the ALGO Master, MDX ALGO Master. This one is not free, but this one does also point out some automatic ones. And here, if I go into the settings, there is actually here in the fib types, there is Stuber fibs as a preset thing. With that in mind, I know a lot of you guys here with me right now are a part of the MDX Algo community. It's not perfect, although they agree with mine quite often. It's still one of those things. I always like to understand basic market structure first, and from there I use indicators for confluence. So I love if, let's say, for example, if let's say we end up taking out this low, so we have our low, and let's say we set a lower low, something like this. At that point, well, the highest point between the two is right here. So if we get this lower low on the trend here, that's where basically I would pull a new fib from our new confirmed lower high and do something like that. And now that's the point where if the Algo Master agrees with me and lays out the same Fibonacci, that is great confluence to have, right? Just a second opinion. It's lining up. It takes a few different measures like factors in volume and that sort of thing. So, in that case, I love having that confirmation, but it doesn't always happen. Sometimes I always pull them faster than when the indicator notices them. And again, just understanding, like, if, for example, the automatic fibs, if the range ends up getting broken, it might not refresh right away, right? So you still need to know what you're kind of looking for. But yeah, as far as the fibs on my screen right now, this is just the basic fib retracement tool. So hopefully I answered that. Dan Rab, sup y'all? Good to see you here again, brother. JB, I actually get happy when you get a really quick retest like the green monthly candle. When it starts to trend up, I'm less confident, but a quick retest is nice as you don't trap as many shorts. Yep, exactly. I don't care if you're a perma bear or bull, as long as you keep it true. No useless FOMO. Anybody here should be used to it by now. We trade the trend, not the hope. Very good point, Red Panda. For those of you guys who are here with me, you know my stance on things. I am, honestly, you guys, one of my biggest advantages in trading is, I mean, you can probably tell it from my voice in general. I'm fairly level. I don't get too worked up either way, generally speaking. Obviously, the odd time I go on a nice heated rant. But other than that, I'm pretty good at keeping a level head. I don't really get sucked into echo chambers. I don't feel like the market owes me anything either way. I'm just going to play the chart structure that's actually there. And honestly, you guys, that's where back testing comes into play. Right? The more you back test, and even if you're blindly following someone else's strategy, understand that there could be things you're missing, or your eye doesn't catch it, or there's something your eye misses, or whatever. Make sure, even trading someone else's strategy, I mean, you should always be back testing before trading your own money on a strategy, right? You should kind of know your probabilities. You should have your list of rules written out and a certain format that you follow for entering trades, because to be profitable in the long run, you need a systematic approach where you can't just let your gut feeling run the show for you. If you're trying to trade on gut feelings, and if you're trying to say, well, this time's different, even if you've done back testing, I know a lot of people who have done back testing and then say, oh, I feel different about this chart setup though, because this is happening. This was tweeted. This is what the fundamentals are doing. I strongly doubt that anybody who's done back testing, especially here with me right now, I highly doubt that anybody who's gone through and done years of back testing chart structure and chart setups and that sort of thing, very doubtful that you've gone back and looked at what the fundamentals were in the global economy at the time of that trade setup, right? That's why I trade charts, not fundamentals, because I would rather just trade a chart setup that I'm familiar with rather than, a lot of people try and read the news or listen to speeches or do whatever to try and get an edge on the market because, it's so easy to misanalyze something in a chart. I've got bad news for you. There is significantly more things that you can misanalyze on the global scale of the global economy and how everything is going to tie itself together versus drawing a couple colorful lines. That's all there is to it. So I would always rather trade the structure rather than the news, no matter what, because even if fundamentals are going to work against a trade setup, that's why you have invalidations. That's why you look for the setups that have tight risk reward, right? And that's why rather than FOMOing into breakouts, that's why I wait for retracements. That's what the Fibonacci is there for. The Fibonacci's are great at pointing out those bull traps, the bear traps, either way, right? I'd way rather wait for a structure break followed by a pullback to retest that structure break before entering a position rather than banking on, fundamentals or tweets or anything like that, right? I trade charts, not tweets. StuTube trading, copyright. You need to do accounting for all your trades. Yeah, I'm in a painful 2-week process of doing my taxes right now. Had literally over 10,000 transactions this year, so that is where being a scalper doesn't always, it's not fun this time of year. I'm not going to look at any more altcoins today, you guys. Like I said, I'll try and go over a few of them. If you guys are in the Telegram, I'll try and later when I get a sec, I will look over a couple and see what I can find. I just don't want to get tied up for too long here. I have something I got to do here. Nick, you have never heard me bullish. I'm partially bullish right now. I'm baby steps. And that's true. Q4 2024, I was bullish. And it's when that divergence came on the weekly, that's when my red flag was there. Also, guys, understand that, where was it? On the weekly chart here. You don't know how many people were arguing with me when down here I was claiming that I thought the bottom was in. For those of you specifically in the MDX community, I know you guys basically right around the what was it, the FTX collapse. After that, I was very open about the fact that I thought the bottom was in. I had several reasons at that time, and everybody was arguing with me, telling me that was silly to be bullish at that point. We were going so much lower and whatever. Very similar to right now, right? So even if I'm wrong about this, okay, so let's say I sell some of my spot if we get up to this level. And like I said, okay, if we break the highs, then yeah, you know what? Parabolic run on. I'm just as excited as the next guy to play a parabolic run again. But understand that, a lot of people will say, Stu got wrecked because he missed a 13% move to the upside when he caught, a 500% move to the upside while everyone else was still bearish down here. Understand that I rode this market cycle to the top. So now taking profits and shorting downtrends and stuff, that it really doesn't bug me, right? If I miss a very small move, if you're, let's say we get up to this resistance, and that's the thing, right? Right now, I'm cautious both ways where we are right now, because we're right in the middle of a range. We're kind of in no man's land. But if we get up to resistance to these levels and you're really scared about missing out on the gains in case it goes parabolic, well, the invalidation, like I said, it's less than 15% away. If you're worried about missing a 15% climb to the upside, that is not a very life-changing parabolic run at that point if you're worried about 10 or 15%, right? I would way rather be cautious as we trade into resistance, and with proper confirmations, I would get very bullish once again. Maz, good to see you here. Hopefully you're recovering from the old hangover there at the party. Batman, hit the like button. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it, brother. Can't I just buy BTC and call it one transaction? Yeah, I wish it were that easy. I wish it were that easy. It turns out that every transaction in crypto is taxable. Every coin swap, every in and out of fiat, every staking reward, every every transaction fee, they are all transactions. Everything is taxable. And I know a lot of people ignore their taxes. I personally try and do everything legit. So I would rather claim my taxes, as painful as it is for the couple weeks when I get into cram season in April. You know what? To each their own. But yeah, so unfortunately, I can't just buy BTC from it and call it good. Yeah, misanalyze, misconception, mislead women. Red Panda. Bear nerds are us. Bye. Yeah. Bye. I will say I'm a nerd. I will say I'm a bear. So you got me. Actually, I'm not a bear. Right now, I'm middle ground. Daily close will be interesting. Yeah, what is the daily looking like, actually? Yeah, honestly, no matter what, right now with the daily, it doesn't really matter if it, even if it closes like this, it's not really a change in structure on the daily because the order block is actually way down here. As far as the micro trend on the 5-minute goes, so here's something where I would be looking to nibble a little more profits, is right here would be my lower high on the trend, right? Because low, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. So basically, if we get a candle close above this yellow line here, around 94.2, call it 94, call it 94.222. If we close a 5-minute candle above that, then you know what? It's just possible that the trend is broken and things could reverse. So I just want to take a little more profits off my short if that ends up happening. Again, if I'm in a position, I'm basically looking for reasons to downsize my risk, looking for reasons to pay myself a little bit and all that sort of stuff. So that's one way that I like to manage that risk. 3 or 4 liters of water, almost no hangover. Attaboy. Champion. All right. Anyways, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys found this stream useful. If so, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these live streams. And as I mentioned, if you want access to my private Telegram channel where I share some of my theories, trade setup ideas, just some of my overall thoughts on the markets in general, there is a link down below with steps in the description to join, as well as, like I said, the QR code on the screen. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me once again. Peace.